What's going on, people? Good morning. Welcome to United View. Welcome to the morning view. We've got a nice, short, sharp, and sweet episode for you this morning. Straight to the point as you're getting your morning coffee, your breakfast, or you're on your way to work, you're doing a school run, etc., etc. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Me and Owen are going to take you through who we think should start more for Man United. And you're going to get involved in the comments as well and let us know, because when it's international break, not going to fabricate stories for no reason. And also, it's very interesting, this international break's news versus last international break's news, when all the Sancho stuff happened, the apology. And we sort of said it, Owen, didn't we? As soon as we won that game in the last minute, the way that we won it as well, the hounds have kind of gone away and they've kind of regurgitated the same sort of Sancho thing, which is the same at the time of recording this. And, the same about, a couple injuries or a little bit of a takeover, which we covered. There's not really anything new. And this is the perfect time for us as fans to talk about opinionated stuff, stuff that we can agree on, disagree on, and talk about further. But it is interesting, the difference between the news, isn't it, when you win?
Well, I think certainly, this could have been very, very different, couldn't it? It could have been very different. We could have had, I think a lot of journalists and a lot of people had their drafts ready, their stories ready, and they decided, maybe we're not going to go with those stories. Maybe we'll wait. Not so that they won't happen. 2 weeks is a long period of time. They might be waiting. They might be waiting for the first domino to fall. But as of right now, fairly quiet. And you know what, Flex? It's not a bad thing. You don't get quiet a lot with Manchester United, particularly this season thus far. So I'll take it, certainly. So, yes, I'm quite interested, though, to who do you think? I'll start with you. Who do you think should start more at Manchester United in comparison to what we've seen this season?
Yeah, I like this. This is good. It's kind of like start more and what your best 11 is, I suppose. But I like start more because you're basically highlighting players that you think should play more games through this period. I'm going to start with Hannibal.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to break down Hannibal. I'm going to be honest. I don't think that he's like top level. If I'm being honest with myself, if Man United are functioning to how they should do with the players that we have bought, Hannibal shouldn't really be anywhere near this, if I'm being perfectly honest. And that's not me being rude. That's my honest opinion on where we are right now versus how refreshing Hannibal is. We're saying this, but if Bruno and Mount were doing the business, we wouldn't be talking about Hannibal with Casemiro just behind or Amrabat just behind that. If Eriksen was in there still doing the thing, controlling the game, and it would look great with Mount, and he was on a half turn, and we were good, and we wouldn't be doing it. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't start more. And the reason I'm saying he should start more is when you go through difficult periods, you need players who are going to play the game in the right way, play the game like it's their last game, and put every single bit into the game, and have a little bit of quality as well. But I think his main attributes are his energy. The guy doesn't stop running. He puts it about. He wins the ball back. Every time he started the game or played in a game this season, I've left that game going, wow, fair play to the kid. Fair play to the kid. And I think some of our problems been at the minute, like we've been saying, the whole reason we've been doing this video is our big players haven't been stepping up. So I think Hannibal is almost at the top of that list of someone who should get more game time.
Yeah, and I think also as well is he has the sort of double whammy, because not only does he pass, let's say, the eye test in terms of, I tell you what, this guy's putting a shift in, this guy's putting tackles in. Maybe walks the fine line in terms of getting sent off or getting bookings or all that kind of stuff. But statistically, also, he put numbers on the board in his games that he has played thus far this season. Has put some of the best running stats, pressing stats, not only in the United team, but in the league, and some of the best running stats and pressing stats since Erik Ten Hag arrived. And I do think that probably caught the eye of Ten Hag and his coaching stuff. I think it's one thing, like I said, to do the best in the team, or, to do the best this season for United, and they go, oh, that's just a young guy coming in, having energy. But when you start doing, actually, that's better than anyone else has done in the league. And that's the best since I've arrived. I think that would appear to be more than just sort of determination, wouldn't it? That would appear to be more than just having a bit more grit than your teammates. That would imply, actually, in comparison to everyone else in the league. Maybe that's what he's got versus other players. And I think you're right. I think obviously, if everyone else at United is pulling their weight equally, Hannibal doesn't really get a sniff. He doesn't get a chance.
No.
But football's a funny game because, particularly for young players, it's all about timing. It's all about opportunities. And sometimes when people don't perform, you get a foot in the door. And when you get that foot in the door, you get an opportunity. And I would say, in fairness to him, any opportunity he's had, he's taken this season. And I think maybe he realizes, look, of course, I'm not a better technical player than your Casemiro or your Bruno Fernandes. Well, he's played in the 10. So, I'm not a better technical player than Bruno. I'm not going to put the numbers on the board in terms of goals and assists that Bruno is going to. But what I can do is my game. I can just, I can press. I can stand out through hard work. And to the point now where every time he hasn't started or he's come off, the reaction, I think, from both of us has been very unlucky. Hannibal, very unlucky to come off, very unlucky to not start the game. So I'm with you. At a time at which sometimes we criticize the determination and the distance covered, Hannibal would be one for me that I'm actively looking to be like, oh, how do we get him in the team? Even when some of those bigger players are playing, I'm like, oh, how can we get Hannibal involved? So I agree with that. I'll see the Hannibal as well. And this one's a bit of a curveball because there's a reason, of course, he hasn't played thus far this season, but with injury. But hopefully, after the international break, he will be playing. He'll be available. Kobbie Mainoo. How do you get Kobbie Mainoo into a team when he's fully fit? Who comes out? Because we saw him play a lot in pre-season. So who do you think Kobbie Mainoo comes in for, or who has to drop out for Kobbie Mainoo to get in? Do you think?
I think we have to be a bit careful with Kobbie Mainoo, because we played him in pre-season where clearly the plan was to start propelling this kid. Do you know what I mean? It felt like, and we would never know. I'd love to ask Ten Hag this. He would never admit it, but it felt like he was going to be like maybe in line to just keep playing through the pre-season and actually start that first game at home against Wolves. Amrabat would have come in late. They wanted another midfielder. Maybe they got whiffed of that. The way we got Amrabat suggests that throughout the window, it was, I don't know, we're going to have to look at that near the end. Maybe we can do a loan, get him on the last day. Because we left it so late for Amrabat. And the way that Mainoo was being used was like, this kid's
maybe there weren't big Mainoo plans. Maybe it was just, we're just going to play him in this preseason game. And then he was so good that they went, actually.
That's what I mean. So we have to be careful with, because you don't know what the long-term plan was. And he hasn't played. Don't even think he's played a Premier League game for us, has he? He hasn't.
He might have come
Maybe
on.
come on. But he's
not
never had
lot,
a proper, So obviously we've seen him in these preseason games, and we were gassed, and rightly so. That game against Arsenal, he was unbelievable. When he played against Leeds in the first half with the first team players, he looks really good. Who else did he play against? Did he play against?
Well, this is also a good point.
Against Leon as well.
Possibly. And this is also the other point, is that he didn't play a ton of football either, because he got injured against Real Madrid. That was a huge match. You're starting up against, Bellingham. And we were
number one team in that game.
Yeah. And we were not confident, but we were optimistic going into that game, because we were like, I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see how Kobbie Mainoo does against Real Madrid, against senior players, because they started with a senior team. So I agree with you in the sense of you got to be careful. And there is a sense of ambiguity because we don't know what the genuine plans
can't
were.
Just gas him up. You can't. It doesn't mean he's ready for Premier League football because he had 2 good games in pre-season, which I loved, by the way. I was like, this kid looks good. He looks good. He looks like the real deal. There's shades of this. There's shades of that. I'm not denying that. But we have a track record at our club of gassing up players that are just end up either not being it or too much pressure too early. And now because we're going through a bad period, we're saying, whatever we do, we've got to get Kobbie Mainoo in. We've got to drop Casemiro. We've got to drop Amrabat. It's Kobbie Mainoo. Play him. And he's never played before. And this kid now has gone from, being propelled into the light in a short space in pre-season. He's been injured for 3 months as well.
Yeah, it's serious injury.
Actually a big injury. Like I remember seeing him walk off and he looked obviously upset, but it looked like, maybe, hopefully he could be out for a few weeks or something. But 3 months is a significant injury. That's a long-term injury. And apparently, I don't know if there was some rumors yesterday, maybe had a little bit of setback. I don't know. But so I'm just with him. I'll be honest. I'm more just to get him back give him a couple sub appearances, and let's just see where he's at. Because also a young player having an injury that early on, a long one, he might not feel the same. He's still growing. He's still young. I'm just reluctant to thrust him into this because this is the problem with Man United. We already got Højlund when we're supposed to get another striker where Højlund can learn off and not have to be the main guy. But we're like, nope, Højlund, you're young, got to do it now. Kobbie Mainoo, we're saying, no, mate, you got to come in, be our six. You got to lead the whole midfield and be amazing box to box.
You've got to be. Got to do it. You've got to be Frankie de Jong.
You got to be Frankie de Jong right now. We've got no one else, mate. We're trash. Pellistri or Garnacho. I know Garnacho's got the new deal and had last season to bed in, to be fair. So it's a little bit different with him. But he's still young. He's still learning. He's still going through a lot of changes in his life. We're like, Marcus Rashford's been crap. You need to start. You need to be ready now. Which, if you're old enough, you're good enough. I get that 100%. Especially this club. Our club is like, we're built
on it. Oh my goodness me. Plus 92,
Yeah, we're built off that. But with how sort of dysfunctional we are, it isn't always the best thing to do. So I do want him to play more out of excitement, but I'm not sure that he should be coming back off injury and we should be trying to start him in games because, no.
Yeah, well, you mentioned then two players there. So Garnacho, Facundo.
Yeah.
I think the Facundo Pellistri conversation has changed, hasn't it? Because, not that because he didn't start that. He didn't even start that many games. He started, how many was it? 2? Something like that, couple. And I was about to say when you were talking about Kobbie Mainoo, is that it is funny with United players because there only feels like maybe 2 games away from being deemed as terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And 2 games away from being really good. Like,
yeah,
bring him in.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, Kobbie Mainoo could come back. He could start 2 games, working his way back from injury, meanwhile, and not be too great. And everyone be like, nah, it's not yet. We've overdone him. So that's with Facundo, though, it does feel like maybe you go, well, maybe there's a reason why he wasn't starting all of those games when we thought he should be starting those games. So let's park him to one side. Yeah. Garnacho, though, that's an interesting one, particularly with the form of his competitors in that position, because when Rashford's not playing well, Garnacho's coming on, influencing the game. He came on against Brentford. He was a part of the first goal, keeping the ball alive, keeping it going. He looked dangerous. I know the weird thing with him is it feels like every single time he progresses or is progressing so well to the point that he should be starting matches, he then starts matches and we go, he shouldn't be starting matches, and he goes backwards. Do you think, though, given Rashford's just sheer lack of form, and also with Rashford, not only the fact that he's not necessarily delivering as much in terms of goals and assists. Yes, he got an assist against Galatasaray and he scored against Arsenal, but also it's his work rate off the ball. It's his lack of tracking back, or his body language, his throwing his hands up, his sort of fake jogging. Do you think we're near the point of Ten Hag going, you know what? I'll start Garnacho over Rashi. I'll take him out.
I think if it wasn't international break, I think Ten Hag would have done it. I think actually this international break and the fact that the team won in the manner that it did might save a few of them. Again,
wow. Do you think Rashi has to have a good international break? Do you think he has a good
not necessarily break? Even that. Not doesn't have to. I just think just purely Man United, it gave a chance for a reset, a calm, and we won. And I know you can say, yeah, well, we won without them players on the pitch that we're saying. That's the whole point. But I don't think Ten Hag will see it like that. I think Ten Hag will see it as this is the luck, because he took him off in the 60th minute. You can't take someone off any earlier than that before it becomes a problem, before it becomes embarrassing,
and it's getting earlier.
It's getting earlier. It's got earlier 3 times in a row. It was Palace, Galatasaray, Brentford. Earlier. And like we said, 60 minutes is the default time for any manager, unless you're fuming. Do you know what I mean?
Ten Hag doesn't like making subs that early anyway. You know what I mean?
He doesn't. It's one of our biggest sort of question marks over Ten Hag, or grievances, is that get the subs done earlier. Stop bringing people on for 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 4 minutes. Do you know what I mean? Or 15 because you're scared to ruffle some feathers. He ain't scared to ruffle Marcus Rashford's feathers. He is, in terms of like, just don't start him or take him out. But he's getting to the point whereby there's a big decision to make. So I think, to answer the question, I do think Garnacho has got to the point where he deserves to start more, to just give him a game from the start and see. Because what we do know is, if he doesn't do amazingly well,
he'll drop out.
And he will bring, and the funny thing is, because he is a young kid, he will bring him off after 55 minutes or at half time if he's crap, because he can do that to the young kid. The young kid, there is a hierarchy. There shouldn't be. I get that. It should be on merit, but when you're up and coming and you're a youngster, the big man get in ahead of you, and the big man get treated different to the young kids coming through. You got to earn them stripes. That's just how it goes in any walk of life, unfortunately. So especially in football. So you start him, and against Sheffield United, yeah, Bramall Lane, they're not good, but it would be, loud and stuff. If he's struggling with the atmosphere, take him off. But I think that Ten Hag will see it as 2 weeks of calm, one last roll of the dice. And I think, in fact, he'll actually go with pretty much the same team, apart from, I think Anthony will be ready to start by then.
I think what's interesting with Rashford too is cast your mind back to when we played Spurs and we lost 2-0 and Rashford came off. And what did Rashford do? He would throw his boots down. He was unhappy. And we're all, going, don't know what you're unhappy about, mate. You've been rubbish in this game. Don't be angry that the fact you've been taken off. Maybe he was angry with himself.
Yeah.
The last 3 times he's come off, and I noticed this in particular against Brentford. When he came off, there was no negative reaction. He just went and sat on the bench because he knows. He knows. And but that's what I think Ten Hag might be a little bit testing the waters, going, actually, haven't I had that big negative reaction when he's been taken off? Maybe I can drop him out because he gets it. He knows he's not playing well. And because there's nothing worse from a fan's perspective, then you see, like I say, see a player getting angry or throwing his stuff down the ground, which, like, when you go, you must know you're not playing well.
Yeah, and you kind of want that. You don't want players to be happy, going like that because they're coming off it.
No, but
I want them to be visibly pissed off, but make sure they're pissed off with themselves.
Yeah, but I mean, Mike, more so like you're not deluded. There's no retorts there of being like, almost like maybe the Sancho situation of I'm being scapegoated here because you're like, well, you're kind of not. You're not delivering at this point. So I think that might be the one. Maybe he does start. I agree with you that Ten Hag might view it as international breaks, enough time, things will pass. Maybe, again, I do think if Rashford has a decent international break, i.e. like he scores a couple of goals for England or something like that, he'll be like, see, that's fine. I've got an excuse. I can play it now.
He did that last time. He looked really sharp against bloody Scotland. And then we thought, come back. Oh, I look good. And then he's rubbish.
But I would say an example of of the benefits of taking someone out the side is someone like I was thinking about this about Harry Maguire the other day. I'm not being an advocate for like, when all of our defenders are fit, Harry Maguire should start. But I think what you have seen is that there's a player there that's not playing regularly, not starting regularly for Manchester United because he shouldn't, because when he's been playing, he's not playing very well. And in comparison to the other players, he's not as good. But when he did get his opportunity against Brentford, he took it. Fair play. I can't criticize that. I still don't think Harry Maguire should be at United long term. But I'm saying, like, those senior players, Maguire, former captain at the club, so he's a senior player. You say to Ten Hag, you proved it. You took him out the team to Rashford.
It's the right attitude.
To whoever.
One thing you can't label at Maguire is like call him a coward. Like, I know, like when he was captain, they would say like he doesn't come out and do the interviews, or he might say it wrong. Yeah, he got the captaincy side of it. Like, he's not right. He wasn't right to be Man United captain. In terms of what he's had to deal with and how he's had to deal with it, he has got a strong head. I give him that, a strong personality. Because a lot of people in his position, whether it's some of it's his fault for not leaving or other things, whatever it is, the abuse that he's had to take and the trolling and stuff to come through that and still play and do a job here or there is mental strength. I don't care how much money you're on. I don't care. Yeah, but this is the problem. You're the problem, Man United. I'm not saying he should be here. I'm saying, like what Owen said, he's had to come through a lot of crap, some of his own doing, some not, and still put in some decent performances. And when Varane keeps getting injured and Lindelof ain't looking great as well, and Martinez is out for ages, it's like he's going to have to play some
Johnny
games.
Evans.
And Johnny Evans, same thing. I was just laughing at us. I'm like, what are we doing? I love Johnny Evans. Johnny Evans is a Red. He hates Scousers. What a servant to the club. But what on earth is he doing back here?
Yeah, that doesn't paper over those cracks, is it? That he shouldn't be here. But I tell you what, and this maybe is a credit to him. Like now, when he's named in the starting 11, I don't have the same level of panic that I did a couple of months ago. You know what I mean?
Let's move the conversation on a bit. Should Johnny Evans play more in this period that Martinez is not fit? Both footed.
Depends on the
one
game,
a
doesn't
week.
it?
Yeah.
It depends on the game. Depends on the opponent, certainly. But as I mentioned, and this is the problem with Glazenomics, isn't it? Is eventually they can kind of manipulate it to work.
No, but we're only talking about the situation we're in now.
Yeah,
because we are in that situation.
Yeah.
And Martinez is out for ages, and Lindelof does look tired and jaded. and
Yeah, well,
Varane
look,
is injured. Like,
I'll give Johnny
that's
Evans credit. Like, I watched him in preseason, and I was really reluctant when they said, "Oh, we've signed it. You signed a contract." I went, "Screw it!" I went, "Oh my god," because I thought his legs had gone, and I really did. I thought he's
he looked terrible in
like,
preseason.
I thought he can't do it, and look, he played brilliantly. He properly rolled back the years against Burnley. He really did nothing wrong against
He was
Brentford, and in
brilliant against
fact,
Brentford.
a couple
Sorted
of
out everything.
times. A couple of times too, he was showing
Passes,
recovery pace as well. Passes, his
both feet,
distribution
both feet, mate.
is up there with anyone in terms of our defenders. Maybe not Martinez on his best day, but I think there's an argument to be made. Yeah, Johnny Evans' actual like passing distribution might be better than a Varane because Varane's quite clunky on the ball sometimes.
He
He
doesn't
can
play
be.
long balls over the top
No,
and stuff
exactly. He
like that.
doesn't.
That's
He
not his game.
doesn't. And Johnny Evans is decent with his left foot as well, which is quite
Really
difficult
good.
to find a left back now, a centre back nowadays. So, yeah, look,
Not
Johnny
that
Evans,
mad.
like I
It's
said,
not
it
mad
gets
to
to the
say it.
point. Gets to the point when, like I said, now the last couple of games when they go Johnny Evans to start, and you go, oh, it's all right. I'm more worried about other positions. I'm more worried about our midfield or our wingers.
Exactly. Him coming in doing a job now, we're like, do you know what? Cool. In the absence of Luke Shaw, obviously Reguilon's coming back, but
That's changed, isn't it? Because
he's
before
been
Reguilon
refreshing. I
started left back,
laughed.
we're like, fuck. Now we want him back, and to the point where this is a good one. Malacia, they reckon he's gonna be back after the international break. If you've got a fit Malacia or a fit Reguilon, who do you start at left back?
Right now, I'm going Reguilon right now. I'm going Reguilon. Because Malasia's been out for ages as well. So at least Reguilon's like, he just suffered a little setback for a couple of weeks. He's played with this season. And I'd have just Malasia on the bench just ready because we'd have to start rotating before we get injured.
But if they were both fully fit,
yeah,
ready to go, no Malacia come back from injury. He's been back for a while now. Who do you start? Reguilon
right now, because Reguilon is still so desperate for that contract. He's gonna just play with just his blood, sweat, and tears. Right now, today, I'm going Reguilon. And listen, I think Malasia's all right. I think he's all right. I think some games he's done really well, some games he's done really bad, which is expected in the first season for a young up and coming left back. I don't mind Malacia when he's at it and he's proper aggressive and he don't stop running as well.
He's
got
tenacious.
we can't just say you don't do that anymore. Reguilon's better.
No,
so I do
tenacious.
do that. But he's been out for a long time. So I would ease him back and I would start Reguilon.
I do think with Malacia, like I said, I think what Reguilon might have over him is he's a better technical player than Malacia. He's a better technical footballer.
Yeah, he is.
The thing with Malacia that we liked last season, when Malacia first came in, Luke Shaw was way off it. Those first few games against Liverpool, Arsenal, Malacia played. The reason Malacia was playing them is because he just had more. Yeah, he had more grit. He had more aggression about him, and he was more willing to battle with a fullback.
Yeah, but he was nowhere near better than Luke Shaw.
No, on a technical level, he's not.
No.
He's just
on any level.
Yeah, he's just
apart from running around and
he's
getting
not.
into.
Well, I would say on his day, he might have a bit more aggression than Luke Shaw does. That's
but that doesn't always mean you're better. Like Luke Shaw, sometimes he could control the situation.
When you're struggling, and this is why I think Reguilon's fit in quite quickly. When you're struggling and you're not showing a level of aggression, sometimes that can overcome a lack of ability,
which is what Hannibal's done as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do think Reguilon. There was a reason Reguilon was at Real Madrid, and there was a reason why they wanted a buyback clause when they sold him to Spurs, because they saw something and there's a reason that he was at Atletico Madrid as well, because there's a perception of quality certainly there in him.
Yeah, even though it hasn't worked out, because there's also a reason why Ange Postecoglou went in and said, "No, mate."
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that somewhere else they can't be it. But we shouldn't be trying to.
I'd just be glad to have two left backs that actually can play in that position.
That's where we're at. It's where we're at. And just lastly, or near the end anyway, does McTominay need to play a bit more? And if he does he need to play a bit further, or he just needs to keep coming off the bench and being in the final third?
Yeah, this is a funny one, isn't it? Because given what happened, he would be very unfortunate to start. But at the same time,
Ten Hag
did say in the press conference after the game, he said, look, he was going to probably start against Palace, but he was ill, which I thought was quite interesting, because I don't think anyone was going into that Palace game thinking, oh, McTominay's going to start. But he said that he was. So
that means he's been working hard. He's
Yeah,
been doing the right things,
I do think there is
but
something
we've
in.
seen it before, man.
Yeah, he was asked last season about McTominay playing higher up the pitch, and Ten Hag was kind of scoffed at it. He went, no. But
Mm.
with Scotland, he plays high up the pitch, and there's a reason he gets goals. He's a good finisher.
He
And
is.
again, people forget come through the academy playing as a striker. You really lose those instincts. And he's a player that people just assume for his whole life had played as like a defensive midfielder. But the only reason he played a defensive midfielder because Mourinho put him there because he was big.
Yeah.
Because he was tall and he can get around the pitch.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, he's a bit more technical than people realize. And he's got, for instance, that first goal against Brentford, he's got good instincts in the box. Those
He
kind of
does.
instincts that you don't think about. He's got good instincts. And those kind of players that can score goals. I think maybe it should be a case of he's definitely an option to bring on from the bench more.
Mm.
But when we bring him on, we don't bring him on to sort of shore up the game. We bring him on to get goals higher up the
To
pitch.
change the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe something
Get
like
goals.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree on McTominay. We can't, again, revisionist. We can't be like, actually, he scored a couple of goals. Let's get him back in next to Casemiro at the base and let's go from there. And we've seen it. We've seen it. Just lastly, we haven't mentioned Martial. Is that because he's all right doing what he's doing, which is coming off the bench and, keeping the ball all right? Or if you're not going to start Garnacho because you think he's too young and that, would you stick Martial in for a game and just see what he does on the left?
Can he play left
Can
wing
he
at
run?
this
Well,
point
I
in his
think he would
career?
play it in a different way. I think his body type now and how he moves, no.
Yeah.
But how he would play the position if he was asked to is, which obviously wouldn't be for 90 minutes, I think he'd just be honest because he can't do all that running. I think he'd play it kind of like how Palestri plays it, where he wouldn't try and cheat and gamble and go pressing like a lunatic. He'd just get back in when we ain't got the ball, give a bit of shape. But every time you passed it to him, I'd bet that he wouldn't lose it because he'd just keep it neat and
Yeah,
tidy, go
I
forward
just
when you know what I mean. But I listen. I think this is out of everything we've spoken about today. I think this is the least likely to happen.
yeah, I
But
think
I
Ten
just thought
Hag.
I'd just throw it in there just to see what you think and
Yeah.
what you like. You got to think at home.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag's made his mind up that Martial can't play 90 minutes because he can't.
Yeah,
Like he still hasn't since Ten Hag's come in. Anthony Martial has still not completed 90 minutes, and
no,
it's been well over a year.
and that's never going to change. Yeah,
Like,
that's not going to change.
that's never going to
But I'm
change.
saying a start. I'm saying a
Yeah,
start.
I think in the role that he's currently in at the moment, I think that's how he's going to see out his days at United. I think he'll go at the end of the
But he
season
came
as
on in a
well.
10. Yeah, definitely. He came on in a 10. Went
Yeah,
behind a
and
striker
again, that's what I think it
in
might
that
be
game.
like.
When we're on
I think.
top,
Yeah, I think it might be like, Ten Hag looks at him as a player he can swap like for Højlund, a player that maybe he can bring on just as an extra option up front if we're kind of just chasing the game, a player that, you mentioned, maybe he does bring him on the left or bring him on as the 10
he
against.
played for
And
like
look,
15 on the left or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah, he would.
against Bayern, he came on, he was brilliant for like the
Yeah,
5-10 minutes that he was on. And he does add something, but you can't forget last season. And I don't think Ten Hag
absolutely not.
forgets last season either. You know what I mean? I don't think you can rely on him totally. So because you can't rely on him, you've got to just stick him on the bench and then just, keep it's basically the role for Martial this season is stay fit for as long as you can, and we'll make sure that we manage you as effectively as
Yeah, and
possible.
he's,
We'll
he's
try
to
and
help Højlund so he can
yeah,
come on and do 15, 20 minutes and just help out. Come on and do
yeah,
15, 20 or start
exactly.
and do like 60 minutes and you get off. Still the
Mm.
same thing. Okay, there you have it. Let us know what players, you think should play more. We didn't even get to the keeper. Should Deer play more? Should Tom Heaton play
Okay.
more? You know what I mean? Some people may be screaming at the screen saying, listen, no, you lot didn't even talk about Onana. He needs to play less. Play this keeper instead. Let us know if we've absolutely got anything wrong. Does Christian Eriksen need to play more games? We didn't even really talk about him. There's a lot of other options that are there. And hopefully you guys got a lot to say about it in the comments and let us know your starting 11s as well. And yeah, we'll be across any news that comes out over the next days and weeks, etc. Of course, here at United View. And we'll see you all again soon. Take care, guys. Peace.